Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Today I thought we'd do a little project that I found to be a pretty good seller, and it's got kind of a cool little design and seems to be popular, and that is to make a little lotus blossom pendant. So that's what we're going to do today. But before we get started, if you find this video to be enjoyable and likable, then would you mind hitting the like button? And if you think you'd like to see more of this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you. With that being said, let's get going. So for this project, I think I'm going to use some of the 16 gauge wire for most of the petals on the lotus blossom, and then I'll use a little 18 for some of the smaller ones. And then I'll need to put a little jump ring at the top, and then I'll make a bale out of some 26 gauge sheet with some little, I think I use 22 gauge wire for the little borders on the bale. It'll be kind of like this kind of bale here, where it's got this little edge on here, and it's kind of teardrop shaped when you look at it from the side. So let's get started. First I'm going to cut myself a couple of primary leaves out of this stuff, and that'll kind of dictate the size of the whole lotus blossom. So start with some about that long, maybe 1.5 inches long-ish. Straighten it out a little bit. Let's see. There's always something I have to fish out of the pile over there. As you may have noticed if you watch some of my videos, organization in my shop is not my strongest suit. Okay, so I want these to come to a relatively sharp point, so I'm actually going to file a 45-degree notch in the center of both of these. This is a good way to make a sharper bend in wire if you want it to come to more of a point. So you get kind of more of a V shape there. Do the same thing we did on that other one. Not exactly on the center, I can tell, but that's okay. We'll just trim them off a bit. Okay. Cut myself a little solder. Okay, so we got kind of sharp bends there now. This side's slightly longer than the other side, so I'm just going to snip off a little tiny bit. Same way with this one, I think. Close enough. Alright. To turn the leaves into leaves here, just need to make these basically marquee shaped. We'll be soldering these all together in 2 dimensions here like this, so you want to make sure they lay pretty flat. Otherwise you end up with, when you go to solder the wires together, you get one higher than the other, then it's hard to get a little piece of solder to balance on there, which you can do it that way, or you can pick solder like I usually do. Either way works okay. So we got the start there. So I think I'm going to file these so they come to more of a point. A bit. Okay. I think just to keep them stable, I'm going to solder them closed, and then I'll solder the two together. Like I said, if you're not comfortable pick soldering, always just pick up a piece and set it on top there. That works just as well. Okay. Generally, I just do this though. Alright, so let's put that's a pretty good angle, I think, so now I'm going to solder those together. I may not even need to add any solder for this one, just because there's already some solder on the ends there, and sometimes if you get lucky you just get a freebie there, but I'm going to pick up some just in case. Never hurts to have a backup there. See, it did solder, but I'm just going to add a little just to make sure it's a good solid joint there. Okay. So now, let's see, cool this off. I need to make like 3 more out of this wire. So I'm going to use a little bit more of these. They don't need to be quite as big, I don't think. 2 of these I need to do a sharp point like we did before. Not in the center, but a little bit off to one side. So I'm going to go about 2/3, roughly. And the other one, I want to get it in the center again here, so I'm going to try and get relatively close to the center. Right there. And then we're going to do what we just did. We're going to file a notch, 45 degrees. Just like we did before. Bend them like that, then we'll solder them so they're kind of in place that way. Okay, so I got 2 offsets and 1 in the middle. Get these guys soldered back together now. If anybody ever has comments or questions who's watching the video, I love to get comments. I typically answer questions pretty quickly, but I like the interaction. After a long pandemic where I never get to see people or talk to people, it's always nice to have some human interaction again. Ideas for videos as well. If there's something you want to know how to do that at least if I know how to do it, I'll try and show you how to do it. Okay, for the middle one, I'm going to just kind of do it similar to what I did before, but I'm not going to bring it all the way down together for this one. These ones, okay, so these ones are going to go here and here, basically, but I think I need to change the length of them a little bit. these need to be a little shorter. These need to be cut more evenly, I think. So let's do that a bit. I'm going to file, because it's coming to a point in between these two, I'm going to file the ends of these narrower so they fit in there nicely. Alright, this guy in the middle here. I'm going to stick him up about that high. Hope you can see that. Hope I'm not leaning over too much. I always forget to do that when I'm shooting these videos and lean forward too far. Off to one side to me a little bit. Let's get this guy over just a scotch. You could stop there and just put a Bale on it if you wanted to, but I'm going to give it just a little more detail with some 18 gauge. So I'm going to do a few pieces like I did with the 16 gauge. I'm going to cut it part of the way through so I can get kind of a sharp bend there. Let's see, should we do maybe 4 of them? 1, 2, 3, 4 in between these leaves. Or petals, I should say. Just like we did before. Goes into V shapes. Okay, with these ones we just need to do the same kind of thing, make them into kind of curved pointy shapes like that. I just want a little tiny point sticking out behind here. So pretty short. We'll put one there, one there, one there, and one there. Okay. Put this guy back up here. See if I can't get these little tiny things positioned where I want them to be. I'm using really small wire. Sometimes if you're using spray-on flux like I am, if you spray from the side too much, you can spray things right out of position. So little stuff like this, they tend to dribble from above. Dribble from above. I think it came out pretty good. I don't see any solder joints that look suspect or anything. Maybe that one down at the bottom. I'm going to add just a little more at the bottom there to make sure he's a good solid solder joint. Nothing more embarrassing than selling someone something and having it come apart. Nobody likes that. Alright, hopefully that gives it a little more solidity. Now, I'm going to add the jump ring at the top, and then I'll run a little bale through it. I did a jump ring and then I snipped a little piece out so it would kind of sit right on top of this point up here. To make the little bale I was talking about, we're going to use a little bit of 26 gauge sheet. Piece right off of here. And I'm just kind of eyeballing the size on this. It doesn't have to be any kind of exact size. This is 26 gauge sheet. This is 22 gauge wire, so it's relatively thin wire as well. I'm going to cut 2 pieces, slightly longer. Straighten these fellows out. Again, we'll find the center of these guys. Close enough. Just bend these into kind of a narrow chevron shape, like that. That's kind of what I want for this one. So, in order to get this solder down onto this piece of sheet without having a lot of messy puddles of solder, I generally pre-melt some solder onto these wires. It's called sweat soldering. And so I'm going to cut a number of small pieces again, since I used up most of those other ones. And I'll just gradually add some along the length of those wires. And then the solder will be exactly where it needs to be in order for it to flow onto the sheet without leaving a lot of excess sloppiness. So it's one of those tricks I figured out a long time ago. now we'll flux this and reheat it to the point where those little balls of solder that are on the wire reflow and stick it down to that piece of sheet. Usually then I just snip off the excess wire on the ends here. Get this right along the edge of the wires that are soldered down now. File these flush on the edge like that. Okay, these are Bale making pliers. So these make it easy to bend these into kind of a teardrop shape. So I'm just going to put it around the smaller one here. Just bend those around like that. If you can't do that with your fingers, it's okay to put it on the table and roll it around it, or use a pair of pliers or whatever you need to do. But it never comes together quite all the way, so when we stick it on here, if we do that, in order to get them close enough to solder, I'm going to grab it above the ring there and just bend it inwards sharply there. Do the same thing on this other side. And that forces, instead of just taking these two that bounce back like that, you go like that and like that basically, and it forces those two ends together. And so now I can just point it upwards here, and then I can just heat just the Bale and pick solder right there, and it should be good. I'm going to use a little bit bigger piece of solder for that. I'm just going to heat it up a little bit. Time to let it pickle for a while, and then I'll clean it up and polish it for you and show you what it looks like. Okay, finished polishing. That's what it came out looking like. I'm pretty pleased. I think it looks nice. So I'll take a nicer picture in the photo booth and show you right at the end of the video. Alright, that's how you make a lotus blossom pendant, at least the version that I do. And if you enjoyed it, would you mind liking the video? And if you'd like to see more content like this, I release about 2 to 3 videos every week with different techniques, as well as different design ideas and tutorials like this. So please subscribe if you want to, and share it with others who might like it as well. So thanks again for watching, and happy silversmithing.